With his eyes, he unlocked the ability to copy God's skills. When he was betrayed by his party, they left him to die inside the dungeon, but he was teleported inside to a mythic dungeon where he had to face godly Furnia. However, beautiful god Loki gave me a blessing, upgrading my skill to copycat. He defeated gods, and the intro concludes, "Help us reach 69 likes, and let's begin." A large earthquake shook the entire world, which caused dungeons to manifest across the world. Monsters that appeared from the dungeons weren't affected by any normal weapons. The only people that could combat the monsters were those who awakened supernatural powers known as skills. Using skills to defeat the monsters, the skill holders could level up and strengthen themselves to higher heights. The skill holders inspire fear and respect. These skill holders became known as the Awakened. Inside a dungeon, our main character, Kisaragi Tsukasa, who is level 4 and has the skill Imitate, is fighting a goblin. When Kisaragi slashed at the goblin with his sword, a pop-up saying that Imitate failed to copy the target's skill. The goblin then lunged at Kisaragi, but a mysterious man threw a fireball at the goblin, killing it instantly. The man then mocks Kitsuragi for struggling against a trash mob like a goblin, and calling him an idiot. The man whose name is Todo Kakeru has the skill Flaymaster, who is regarded as the shining star of the next generation of Awakened because of his skill. Skills began to manifest to a select group of humans at the same time as the dungeons. Skills can determine one's rank and superiority as an Awakened. Todo ordered Kisajiri to quit sitting and start retrieving the magic stones, and Kisaragi reluctantly agrees to. Flaymaster is an extraordinarily powerful skill which lets Todo manipulate fire at will. Kisaragi has the skill Imitate, which after making physical contact with a monster allows a single use of the monster's skill, but its success rate is very low. It also puts Kisaragi at risk, since he needs to get close to a monster. He regards it as a flawed skill. Two more people, Yoshimura and Inu Hayato, also appear, and tell him how long he was going to take to clear the dungeon if he can't fight, and his skill is trash. Inu asks him why he doesn't give up. Todo, putting his arms around Kisaragi, sarcastically tells them not to say such things since they are comrades, and tells Kisaragi to make most of his trash skill, and mocking him by calling him Big Brother. The reason Kisaragi became an adventurer was to cure his little sister Kisaragi Mayu, his only family left, who has been suffering with an illness since she was born. He wants to get an elixir, which can cure any illness. Until he gets his hands on an elixir, he can't give up being an adventurer. Yoshimura and Inu ask Todo if they are going to the boss room. Todo tells them that their goal is the monster's den, and are going to loot all the treasures themselves. After they enter the den, Todo uses his flames to burn all the goblins. After killing the goblins, Todo levels up. The only way to level up is by killing monsters, but Kisaragi, even when in a party, can barely defeat one on his own since others kill them all. He can't get any experience. As they find the treasure, Todo blows a hole through the wall. To his surprise, he found a bonus room. Bonus rooms are filled with valuable and powerful items, but are likely to be rigged with deadly traps. Todo then throws Kisaragi into the room, saying that Kisaragi is going to die for them. The other two, in disbelief, ask if he is going to use Kisaragi to trigger the traps, and that using a classmate like that is dark. Todo remarks that he is finding a way to recycle a piece of trash. After throwing Kisaragi in there, Todo mockingly tells him to meet them again if he survives. A glowing light appears in front of Kisaragi, from which he transports into a Colosseum-like place. He then saw some eyes and got immediately afraid because of the power it was emitting. Dungeons have their own rank: beginner, intermediate, advanced, heroic, and a final rank which no one has conquered before, mythic. Kisaragi was facing off against a wolf-like creature named God of the Fenrir. He landed in a mythic-ranked dungeon. He starts to laugh in disbelief that a trap inside a lower-ranked dungeon led him in there, and it isn't funny. Kisaragi stood up, and for Mayu's sake refused to die since both his parents died one day. He lunged at the Fenrir, trying to touch him to use his skill, but got blown away and failed to copy a skill. He wonders if it's the end for him, and asks Mayu to forgive him for being a pathetic brother. But then a mysterious sound came telling Fenrir to sit. Fenrir couldn't disobey the command and sat down. A mysterious lady appeared out of nowhere, telling Fenrir to be more gentle with Kisaragi, since he is an important guest. She bids welcome to Kisaragi in her castle. Kisaragi asks her who she is, but she remarks that he is in much better shape than she expected, but is still impossible to beat Fenrir as he is now. She puts her hand on Kisaragi's cheek and tells him that this is a gift for him and tells him to be grateful. His skill then evolved from imitate to copycat, and his levels also increased from 4 to 25. He is very confused and shocked about what just happened. The mysterious woman then excuses herself. She tells Kisaragi to use his new powers to defeat Fenrir, and once he does that he will be able to leave the mythic rank dungeon, Trickstar. Fenrir then stands up and roars, while Kisaragi thinks to himself that he can't defeat this monster. Fenrir then slashes at Kisaragi, but as he does that a pop-up comes saying that Copycat has been activated and that a skill has been copied from the Fenrir. Kisaragi then notices in disbelief that the target skill has been copied successfully. He realizes that if he uses the skill which envelopes the user's body with the might of a god to enhance physical powers to the utmost limit, which has a duration of 1 minute, he can win. Since it only lasts for 1 minute, he needs to choose carefully when to use it. The Fenrir then lunges at Kisaragi again, but Kisaragi manages to dodge, remarking that his body feels very light because his level increased. He notes that the copycat skill is insane since it has a 100% chance of copying a target skill and does not disappear after use, and is used by making physical contact or experience the skill firsthand. Kisaragi wonders what experiencing firsthand means, as he wonders that Fenrir uses the skill Divine Wolf's Force at him, which limits his mobility, and he was able to copy the skill. He notes that to experience means to take the skill head-on. Fenrir then uses another skill, Vanagand, on Kisaragi, which he managed to dodge. Fenrir then came lunging at him, then both fought hand to hand. Kisaragi notes that he will run out of strength at this rate. He then uses Heavenly Authority to take on the Vanagand, which he managed to copy. With Heavenly Authority having 0 seconds duration, he attacks the Fenrir, damaging it greatly. He keeps attacking the Fenrir, noting that with this ability he can win. With 30 seconds left on the duration, he attacks the Fenrir again, and then both of them use the skill Vanagand. They both gain some distance between them, and Kisaragi notes that he can't reach the Fenrir because of the level difference. Het-Hen decides to just attack him directly. After the Fenrir charges another skill, he realizes that his attack from before didn't work. Kisaragi managed to dodge the blast and Jumo in the sky, and while the Fenrir tried to charge the skill again, Kisaragi managed to throw his sword in its eyes, stopping it. He then climbed up the Fenrir, and then tried to stab the Fenrir in its head, but the mysterious woman from before ordered him to stop. Kisaragi stopped, but managed to copy the skill, Wordplay. The woman claps and tells him that it was a wonderful performance. After she snapped her fingers, Kisaragi was able to move again. She tells him that this calls for a peaceful tea party. Kisaragi asks her why she is doing this. She replies it's probably to kill some time, and that adventurers rarely come here, and even if they do, Fenrir kills them right away, so she expected to never encounter someone like Kisaragi. The woman asks Kisaragi to listen to her request, and that she would like to experience the outside world for herself, and because the outer world has a slim amount of mana particles, she can't freely explore it, and that's why she needs his help. Kisaragi agrees, instantly shocking the woman, since she wasn't expecting an immediate answer. Kisaragi tells to himself that he can't trust her yet, but it's thanks to her he was able to withstand Fenrir, and that helping her would be in his best interest. While asking her how she would explore the outside world, he starts to faint. The woman grabs him and tells him that he used too much strength. Weakly, Kisaragi asks her name. She tells him that her name is Loki, and that she looks forward to working with Kisaragi. Kisaragi then wakes up to an unknown ceiling. Loki tells him that he was finally awake. Confused, Kisaragi looks at her, and asks who she is. Sighing, she asks him if he has forgotten her already, and that he is a cold-hearted man. But Loki had turned into a child. Confused, Kisaragi asks if the child is Ms. Loki. She tells him to drop the honorifics, and that just Loki is fine. She tells him that she thought she could finally enjoy herself in the outside world, but Kisaragi has been bedridden the entire time, and that she is thoroughly bored while clinging on his body. She asks him if he would make it up to her. He asks her to get off him first, and that they can talk after that. Kisaragi asks her what happened to him after he fainted. She told him that she carried his body and teleported to a beginner-ranked dungeon. He then asks her how she got him to the hospital. She did not know that this place was called a hospital, and that she left his unconscious body in the place they teleported. That way, a passing adventurer was able to find him, and the one who found him brought him to the hospital. Kisaragi asks if she could teleport, why she didn't go outside till then. Loki answers that because she is a god, she requires a large amount of mana particles to maintain her true form, and because this realm has a very low amount of mana, she can only manifest in the immature form. She remarks that she won't be able to move freely like that. He agrees and says that she will be brought to the police for protection. She gets mad and hits him in the head, getting offended by the fact that he thought she could not protect herself. Kisaragi then asks her why she helped him. She replies because she wanted his cooperation and that he would be her, but before she replies she stops, stating to save the details for later. She then opens a portal to go away for a while to intrude any time with his family. Then the sound of a glass shattering takes attention of Kisaragi. He looks over to what made the sound, where he saw his little sister, Mayu. Mayu then jumped at him to hug him while crying. She said that he was in a coma for a whole week, and that doctors even said he might never wake up. He tried to comfort her by saying he had no idea he was asleep for a whole week, and apologizes for making her worry. He comforts her by saying that he won't be going anywhere since they are each other's only family. After managing to comfort her, Mayu tells him that she needs to go and that he needs to keep resting, and Kisaragi tells Mayu to not push herself too much. She winks at him and tells him not to worry since she has been feeling good lately. He remarks that she is as hectic as ever. Loki comes back and asks if Mayu was his sister, to which he says that she is his only family left. He tells her that she has been sickly ever since she was born, and that doctors said that there is no cure for her illness, and that's the reason that he has been going into dungeons to search for the elixir. Loki then tells him that the illness that Mayu has can't be cured even with that medicine. Shocked, Kisaragi asked what she meant. Loki replies that the source of Mayu's condition is most likely the dungeon's curse. She says that the curse stems from a skill, to be precise. She continues saying that she doesn't know who did it, but that it's the work of another mythic rank being like her. Kisaragi asks that if the curse is from a skill, if taking down the god would break the curse. Loki tells him that he is correct. Kisaragi, determined, tells her that he is going to defeat the god who cursed and cure Mayu, and asks if Loki would help him. Loki agrees and decides to help him along the way, and she is also curious about who cursed her. After Kisaragi thanks her, she says that with that decided, they must take on dungeons every day for his training, since he needs more experience to challenge a mythic rank dungeon. He says that he would like that, but he still needs to go to school, and Loki, perplexed, asks him what a school is. All students of the Tengetsu Academy, which Kisaragi attends, are awakened, and it's a specialized school for those aiming to be adventurers. Then Kisaragi, holding his hand out for a fist bump, tells Loki that they are a team from now on, and Loki replies that she is looking forward for his cooperation. 3 days later, on a day off at the Japan Dungeon Management Organization, short form JDMO, Kisaragi got denied to enter the dungeon as a solo party. The woman there told him to consider the level difference between him and the dungeon. She told him that when adventuring solo, it's only safe to take on monsters lower level than yours. When fighting monsters of same level, and against monster of higher level, there is a large spike in danger level, and that he is currently level 4, and that in Goblin's Den are at least level 5. Loki, getting angry, asks him if he should turn her into mincemeat. Kisaragi tells her not to say things like that, and that they decided not to show them his real D-card. Since the last time he entered a dungeon he was level 4, and his skill was imitate, and that the JDMO still has data on file, and that if they find out he is level 25 now with another skill, it will be a pain in the ass if they find out. Loki asks him if he's tolerant or just lazy. Since Kisaragi didn't want to cause a scene, he wanted to leave, but Loki told him that it's too early to turn back. She suggests him to use wordplay, and that the results would be interesting. Even though it's forbidden to use skills there, he decides to give it a shot. He uses the skill and asks her if he could enter the dungeon solo. She accepted, and she asked for his D-card to process his request. Kisaragi asks Loki that they want to realize that he used a skill. Loki assures him that wordplay's activation can't be detected by others since it's a god's skill. Kisaragi thinks to himself that he underestimates Loki, and Loki tells him that she sensed a hint of disrespect. The dungeon gate connects to every dungeon and lets you freely come and go to any dungeon you want to visit. After opening the door, Kisaragi and Loki enter. Kisaragi thinks to himself that it doesn't matter what dungeon he needs to conquer or monsters to slay. If it's to break Mayu's curse, he would even kill a god. After entering Goblin's Den F1, Loki asks Kisaragi what exactly they are doing in the dungeon, and Kisaragi replies that he wants to see how far he can go. Goblins started to come towards them, and he unsheathed his sword to test his strength against them. He then shot a level 5 goblin easily. Loki asks him what he was so satisfied about, and that the way he is now, these monsters are barely a challenge. He tells her to at least let him be happy, and that this is the first time he defeated a goblin all by himself. The reason Kisaragi was level 25 was because Loki granted him a large amount of mana particles, and now he could beat goblins he couldn't before without so much as a sweat. He then thanks Loki since she helped him reach there. Loki boasts that it was a simple task for her. Loki asks Kisaragi what he wanted to do next. He replied that they are going to go deeper in the dungeon, and that his goal is to reach the boss room. In Goblin's Den F5, Loki remarked that this place is as boring as it gets, and that she was expecting a thrilling battle to get the blood rushing. But the monsters there couldn't even be called his opponents. Loki then tells Kisaragi that the main force has deigned to show themselves. He says that there are many monsters, and the boss room may be nearby. He starts to slash away at the goblins, and states that the first to make a move wins. He then easily killed all of the goblins. He was worried whether he could actually fight them, but it turned out to be a walk in the park. More goblins came rushing at him, and he decided to use the skill Vanagand, with Loki telling him to stop, but he launched it anyway. As he was celebrating killing the monsters, he fell to his knees. Loki said that's why she told him to stop, since that's the price of using divine techniques with his weak human body. He said that this didn't happen when he used it last time though. Loki told him that he was using heavenly authority at that time. He then asked her if he couldn't use Fenrir's skill unless he has heavenly authority active. She says that he is correct, and that is the reason that she now forcefully forbids the use of heavenly authority and other skills copied from Fenrir. Kisaragi is in shock, and Loki tells him that this is a handicap, so he doesn't start to overly rely on his trump card. Kisaragi then stood up and said that this is why he can't stand trickster gods. They finally reached the boss room, and Loki remarks that it is quite a fancy entrance for a goblin. The Goblin King is the boss of Goblin's Den. It has the skill Summon Underling, allowing it to summon more goblins, and being able to beat this boss is said to be the test of whether an awakened has what it takes. He then opens the door and enters the room where the Goblin King is sitting on his throne. Loki remarks that he looks quite confident for being a goblin. As Kisaragi is unsheathing his sword, the Goblin King gets up from his throne. He wonders that he is supposed to feel scared, but doesn't feel anything at all. The Goblin King summons a large number of goblins. Kisaragi remarks that compared to Fenrir, this is no big deal, and that he should be fine on his own. Loki then buffed the Goblin King and the goblins by making them enter a berserk state. Kisaragi asks Loki what she did. She replies that this is a test for him and to do his best. Kisaragi, smiling, tells her that she is quite a Spartan god. Kisaragi runs towards the monsters. Loki thinks to herself that if he can't defeat the goblins without using heavenly authority, his prospects won't even be worth considering. Kisaragi keeps killing the goblins, but he can't one-shot them anymore because of the berserk buff. The Goblin King roars and keeps coming in droves because of his summon underling unique skill. Because the Goblin King has the berserk status, all the underlings will also have the berserk status. Unless he defeats the Goblin King, he will be fighting a losing battle. Kisaragi decides to steal Goblin King's skills to not give him any trouble. He uses the skill wordplay to seal his skills, but the Goblin King is able to resist it. Goblin King then lunges at Kisaragi, attacking him. Kisaragi manages to block it and get some distance from the Goblin King. Loki tells him that wordplay would have worked if she didn't give the Goblin King berserk status. She tells him that the Goblin King's skill isn't sealed. The Goblin King then spawns more hordes of zombies. Loki tells Kisaragi that the enemy he wants to beat is a god, and that he must find a way to turn the tables in the face of predicament. Kisaragi agrees with her, stating that the one who cursed Mayu is a boss of a mythic rank dungeon, and if he struggles with an enemy like this, then he will never be able to save Mayu. Loki asks him if he can still fight. More determined than ever, he says he can. He then rushes at the goblins, killing them instantly. Kisaragi then reaches the Goblin King, and the king, realizing that Kisaragi has reached him, panics and uses his skill once again. But this was a part of Kisaragi's plan to copy the skill, summon underling. He then uses the skill and wonders what he summoned. He summoned an animal that looked like a baby Fenrir. The Fenrir then goes to Kisaragi's legs and starts nuzzling him. Loki starts to hysterically laugh after seeing the Fenrir. Kisaragi thinks that this is the same Fenrir he fought. Even though he was now small, he saw the resemblance. The goblins started to run at Kisaragi, but the Fenrir also runs at the goblins using his skill Vanagand to kill all the goblins. Kisaragi is shocked by the destruction he sees in front of him. He then asks Fenrir if Fenrir would fight by his side. Fenrir agrees, letting out a joyous bark. The Goblin King spawned more goblins, and Kisaragi told Fenrir to take of the normal goblins while he fights the Goblin King. Then the Goblin King and Kisaragi started to fight one-on-one. The Goblin King swinged his tree branch at Kisaragi, but Kisaragi managed to block it and overpowered it and sent his hand back. Kisaragi, seeing that the Goblin King lost his balance, attacked his legs, making him fall over. When Goblin King tries to summon more goblins, he saw that Fenrir had killed of his previous ones. Kisaragi then stabbed the Goblin King in the head and ordered Fenrir to attack the Goblin King, and he attacked with Vanagand. Kisaragi then jumped in the air while screaming that it was the end, and then stabbed Goblin King in its skull, killing him. As he sheathes his sword, Loki comes behind him, clapping, telling him that it was clever of him to summon underlings against him. Loki then reminded him not to get cocky just because he beat a beginner-rank dungeon boss. He tells her that he realizes that, and while looking at the Mana Stone, he thought to himself that he will keep getting stronger until he can cure Mayu. Loki then asks him the name of the Fenrir pup. Kisaragi begins to think of a name for him and comes up with Lufin. Lufin, happy with his name, starts nuzzling Kisaragi again, although it was a play-off of the name Fenrir. Kisaragi decides to call it a day and trade the magic stones to buy something delicious for Mayu. Loki tells him that she wants to want some sweets. The receptionist at the JDMO was shocked that Kisaragi cleared a dungeon solo. He then hands over the magic stones as proof of completion and wanted to exchange them for cash. The woman, confused, wonders how he entered the dungeon solo at level 4. After settling things in the JDMO, he decides to head back home. He notices a large group of people watching something. To then asked the woman there to team with him. Kisaragi notes that she is the number 1 awakened, Hoshigane Rin. To and his gang's surprise, she rejects Tadu's offer, saying that she has no interest in him. Kisaragi, enjoying the scene, remarks that she is harsh. Rin then takes note of Kisaragi calling him out. To do, seeing that Kisaragi is there, shouts in surprise. Rin then tells Kisaragi to wait, and Kisaragi greets her awkwardly. He tells her that he didn't expect to run into her, but Rin expected to meet Kisaragi since she came looking for him. She tells him that she got a call from a receptionist, that she knows that an awakened who entered a dungeon alone while being only level 4. She tells him that he already know who she is talking about. Hoshigane Rin is in the same class as Kisaragi and To-Do, and is the #1 student in Tengetsu Academy. Combining that with the fact that she has good looks, the media was all over her. But to Kisaragi, she is a girl way out his league. Kisaragi realized that the effects of wordplay probably wore off, and the receptionist told her about the level for who entered a dungeon solo. Even Loki told him that she probably told Rin after the effects of wordplay wore off. Rin told Kisaragi that if it's hard to explain to show her his D card, unless there is something that he can't show her while going closer to him. Kisaragi had a shocked expression after hearing that, and that she was so close to him, and Rin asked him what that look was for, and asked him if he was actually hiding something. Loki tells him that he let Rin seduce him too easily. Kisaragi then almost loudly said that he wasn't being seduced, but controlled his tongue at the end. Kisaragi passing it off as nothing, tries to give her his D card, but To-Do interrupts him, telling it's been a long time. To-Do then came over to them, telling Kisaragi that he heard that he made it out safely. The entire gang tells him that they expected no less from their party members. Kisaragi looked visibly annoyed seeing them, which Rin took note of. To-Do asked Rin again if she would join his party, and that they'd be strongest in all of Japan. Rin completely ignored To-Do, and asked to see Kisaragi's D card. Kisaragi then handed a fake D card over to her, which said that his level was 15. After looking at his card, Rin said that she had a hunch, but it was really him who solo cleared the dungeon. To-Do and his party, in disbelief, asked that Kisaragi cleared the dungeon. While giving his D card back, she notes that he leveled up a lot, which is natural since he beat the boss. Loki says that Kisaragi should thank her for updating his fake D card. Rin also says that clearing a dungeon at a low level, she did not know he had so much hidden talent. He nervously laughs, telling himself that it was all thanks to Loki. To-Do screaming says that Kisaragi is lying since he can't believe that Kisaragi cleared a dungeon solo, and also said that it was impossible for a failure with garbage skill like him. He continued saying that he somehow cheated, and he would shut up about it if he just came clean. Rin then asked To-Do if he was being serious, and that he knew that there was no way to fake a D card. Rin then turns over to Kisaragi, and asks him that since he is taking on dungeons solo, he is free. Then to both Kisaragi and To-Do's surprise, Rin asked Kisaragi to form a party with him. To-Do then asked why Rin was picking Kisaragi over him, and that Kisaragi doesn't have what it takes to solo a dungeon. He then kept going on talking about that he could easily clear intermediate rank dungeons if they are done. Rin asked if Kisaragi was done talking or not, and that Kisaragi cleared the dungeon on his own, and that's the truth. She followed up with that she can't say the same about To-Do since To-Do is always fooling around with his friends, and she also said that she does not like people like To-Do, and also that she is unaware of all the things To-Do has done. To-Do, pissed, then started to scold Kisaragi, asking him if he has been ratting out To-Do to other people. Kisaragi could have made an excuse or shake it off, but since it's a pain he decides not to. To-Do then tries to attack Kisaragi to be quiet, but Kisaragi manages to dodge him. To-Do then, more pissed, makes a ball of fire while Kisaragi is trying to calm him down. He then launches the fireball, which easily gets blocked by Rin, who then tells him if he knows what he is doing, and that he knows that it is forbidden to use skills outside of dungeons. To-Do then gives the blame to Kisaragi, saying that he is lying out of his ass. Rin is just surprised he is able to say such things with his head held high. Rin then grabs Kisaragi's hand and takes him away. Meanwhile, To-Do is mad and vows to rip Kisaragi's mask off, and that Rin is his. Rin and Kisaragi enter the beginner rank dungeon Kobold Settlement. This beginner rank dungeon with a recommended level of 15. Kisaragi followed Rin like she asked, but doesn't know what he is hoping to accomplish. Rin then goes in front of him, and Kisaragi asks if she is okay with fighting the monsters in front of them alone. She says that it's no problem at all, and to watch her example first. With the monsters jumping at her, she unsheathes her sword and easily takes care of the monsters. Loki takes a note of Rin's sword, but before she can tell Kisaragi what it is, Rin tells Kisaragi that it's his turn to fight the monster. Rin tells him to show what he is capable of. Kisaragi rushes at the monster with his sword, but gets blocked by its shield. Then the monster took the opportunity and tried to attack Kisaragi, which he managed to dodge. Rin tells Kisaragi to stay on guard, and that kobolds are smart unlike goblins. She further tells him that there are two ways of taking down an enemy with a shield: either break through the shield by force, or use a feint to slip right past it. Kisaragi feints to go behind it and slit its head off. Rin remarks that Kisaragi is better than she thought, and maybe she will really invite him. Since Kisaragi did so well, Rin will let him fight the big one. Confused, Kisaragi asked what the big one is. She replied that the trial before the boss room, the mini-boss. After a while they stood in front of the kobold general and kobolds. Rin instructs Kisaragi by telling him that they would start by killing the followers. They manage to kill some of the followers easily, but then get attacked by the general, which they dodge. More kobolds came out, and Kisaragi remarks that there is no point in killing the followers. Rin then told him he was quick on the uptake, and asked him what he would choose to do in such a situation. He replies to take out the small fries in one swoop and focus on the main threat. Rin says that it's the correct answer and to put the plan into action. They kill the small fries in one fell swoop. While fighting, Kisaragi asks Rin if her guild is fine with her raiding with Kisaragi. Rin said that it was fine and planned to quit the guild anyway. Seeing Kisaragi shocked, she told him to save the chat for later and to finish it. Kisaragi then slashed the general's stomach, with Rin following up in his attack. More kobolds come out, and Rin gets angry, stomping at the ground, stating that they were so close and that dealing with To-Do wasn't annoying already. Kisaragi standing there, confused, looking at Rin. Rin in full rage mode attacks the kobold, saying what was To-Do's deal, trying to start a guild with her, and that if she was to constantly team up with him, she would rather solo. Kisaragi, more confused, asked Rin if she was going to leave her guild, Bloodshine, the biggest guild. Rin tells him that she is serious about it. She continues to say that it has its benefits, but it is a lot of trouble than it's worth, and that thinking about it pisses her off, and she plans on using the kobolds to alleviate her stress. Rin raises her hand and activates her skill. Her skill is a wide-range attack, which becomes a bit weaker for single target. She uses her skill Tir No Nog, which looked like stars falling out of the sky and killing the kobolds. Kisaragi, shocked by the power of the skill, and notes that this the power of the top youth. Rin, after using her attack, felt really refreshed and decided to take a short break before fighting the boss. Rin then asked Kisaragi if he has heard of the great hero. Kisaragi replies that he was the first adventurer in Japan to clear a heroic rank dungeon, and that his name was. Rin replied Michinaga Dojiro. That is his old name, and after he got married, he became a Hoshigane, and that he is the grandfather of Rin. The sword that Rin uses is something given to her by her grandpa, and that her grandfather always told her all sort of stories about his journeys with his comrades to explore the unknown world. Rin wants to experience that sort of fairy tale as well, which is why she plans to start her own guild in the future. She asks Kisaragi to lend his strength when the time comes. Kisaragi, flustered, then replies if she is fine with having him, then he'd gladly join. Rin then stood up, telling him that it's enough chit-chat, and make their way to the boss room. As they reach the boss room, Kisaragi notices someone in the door. It was Kodo and his party, and that they had been waiting for Rin and Kisaragi. After seeing To-Do and his party, Rin asks what they are doing there. To-Do then replies that he is there to help his irreplaceable friends. Kisaragi, disgusted, tells himself that is worthless coming from To-Do. To-do continued by saying that he went there to make sure that his friends didn't do anything rash, and that his father provided him with new gear. Rin then asked him if he was going to challenge the boss or not, and that since he came first, he can go fight the boss first since he got there first. The right to challenge the boss goes to whoever makes it there first, which is an unspoken rule among the adventurers. To-do then tells her that he is going to and proves to her that he is serious about aiming for the top, and that they are going to see his true glory. As To-do and his party enter the boss room, they insult Kisaragi one more time, calling him a bullshitter and an idiot. Rin tells Kisaragi that it can't be helped, and to just watch them and see what they've got. Loki, looking at everything, tells that To-do has quite a nerve to mock them. Inside the boss room, To-do and his party face the Kobold King. Kobold King possedes the same skill as Goblin King, Sun Min Underling, and the powerful skill, Thundering Blade. To-do and his party then start to fight the Kobold and the Kobold King. Although Kisaragi hates to admit it, To-do and his team are strong and can definitely beat the Kobold King. After To-do launches a fireball at the Kobold King, he turns around to tell Rin that this is his power. Loki then, to Kisaragi's surprise, gave the Kobold King the Berserk status like with the Goblin King. To-do then threw more fireballs at the Kobold King which did not reach him, and he got hit by the Kobold King's skill, Thundering Blade, and then got hit by his sword which threw To-do to the wall. Rin, in shock, asks what just happened. Kisaragi then asks Loki why she did that, and Loki replied by telling him that it was punishment for getting in their way. With To-do crawling on the ground and the Kobold King ready for his final attack, he starts to beg him to stay away. When the Kobold King swung his sword, Rin came to block it, which she can barely do because of the Kobold King's ridiculous strength. Loki then told Kisaragi to go and help, and that she would be in danger at that rate. Kisaragi then kicked the Kobold King in its face, making it fly far away. Kisaragi then told Rin to take To-do and the others away from there, and that he would take it down. To-do then told Kisaragi that there is no way a piece of trash like him can beat the Kobold King. Rin then agreed with Kisaragi, and that she would leave it in his hands and to not push himself. Kisaragi then told Loki to put those sorts of tricks to a minimum. Kisaragi then summoned Lufin. To-do, in shock, then asks what Lufin is, and Rin remarks that he is pretty cute. Kisaragi and Lufin then rush in with Lufin fighting the kobolds and Kisaragi fighting the Kobold King. The king then manages to throw Kisaragi away, and Kisaragi uses the wall to push himself and slash the Kobold King's shoulder. Kisaragi notes that the wound is too shallow. Kisaragi then notices that he has successfully copied the Kobold King's skill, Thundering Blade, which envelopes the user's weapon in lightning, enhances the strength, pierce rate of attacks, and may temporarily hinder the target's movement. Kisaragi then told Lufin to use the skill Vanagand on the king, and after getting hit, the king summons more kobold. Kisaragi then used the skill Thundering Blade, which also has another secondary effect of stunning any targets that get hit. Kisaragi then managed to stab the king, killing it to everyone's shock. Rin asks herself who Kisaragi is. Loki asks Kisaragi if he needs to go to school, and that entering a dungeon would be a much better use of his time. Kisaragi tells her that he needs to go to school in order to enter dungeons, and that there are plenty of information about dungeons in his school, and that he might be able to find who Pu the curse on Mayu. Loki tells him that dungeons is the best way to get stronger, and to do what he sees fit, and that there might be something interesting at the academy. Loki then left telling him that she would be enjoying the show. In Tangetsu Academy in Class 2A, Kisaragi enters the class, and people are talking behind his back about how they thought he died, and how long that failure trying to be an adventurer. It seemed like Kisaragi was written off as dead, probably To-do's doing. Rin then greets Kisaragi, thanking him for helping her out in the dungeon, and she asked about doing the dungeon, Abode of the Dead. She does not know the limit of Kisaragi's strength, and plans to uncover his secrets. Kisaragi knows that he is suspicious of him, and that he shouldn't have been flashy using his skills in front of her. The entire class is shocked by the fact that Rin is being friendly with Kisaragi, and that she is insane for thinking about going into a dungeon with him. To-do then came to the class, and told Kisaragi that he had some nerve of showing up there. Rin said that she should say that to To-do, and that he had some nerve talking to them. Kisaragi then hopes that it won't be another hassle, and then To-do asked Kisaragi to fight him, and that he is going to expose his lies for everyone to see. Kisaragi wonders why while Loki is just enjoying the show. To-Do then told Kisaragi that since he solo cleared a dungeon, and that if he wasn't going to run away. Loki then told Kisaragi to accept the challenge, and that it's to appease her boredom, and tell him to bring his buddies. She then told him that since he got in the way at the last dungeon, it's time to show them who is in charge. Kisaragi then accepts To-Do's challenge, and to bring his two friends, and that he doesn't want to hear any excuses when To-Do loses after all. To-Do then gets mad that Kisaragi is talking down to him. Loki then tells him to add a wager, which Kisaragi accepts, and says that if he wins he will let Rin leave the guild and make JDMO approve registration of a new guild since To-Do's father is JDMO's director. Rin, hearing the conditions, get flustered, while To-Do is getting angrier. In Tenjetsu training grounds, they get ready to fight. Kisaragi tells him that whoever falls or surrenders first loses, and To-Do accepts that since he believes that he will win. To-Do started off by throwing a fireball at Kisaragi's direction, while Yoshimura punches Kisaragi from the side, which he dodges. Then Inu then sends lightning in Kisaragi's direction, which Kisaragi blocks, and To-Do uses Firestorm. Kisaragi gets engulfed in the fire, and To-Do notes that once a failure, always a failure, and that he would regret it in the afterlife. Kisaragi asked who said he was dead and copied Herculean Strength and Thunderbolt from his minions. Loki mocks To-Do by saying that to think he thought those weak flames would kill Kisaragi, and Kisaragi tells her that she does realize that he would have died if wasn't leveled higher, and Loki told Kisaragi to not lose. As Yoshimura went to attack Kisaragi with his Herculean Strength, Kisaragi activates his Herculean Strength, blocking it and punching him in the stomach and kicking him out the arena. Kisaragi then told To-Do that it was time to end it. To-Do then threw a fireball at Kisaragi, which he slashed away, surprising the entire audience. Rin notes that this should be a walk in the park for Kisaragi. Kisaragi mocks To-Do by asking him if he is giving up already. To-Do then mad tells Kisaragi that he is going to kill him. To-Do then asks Kisaragi if he thinks he is hot shit because he beat Yoshimura, and Kisaragi tells him to cut the talk and attack him. Inu then tries to shoot Thunderbolt at Kisaragi, but Kisaragi shortens their distance and uses Thunderbolt on Inu, knocking him down, and To-Do being the last one standing. To-Do notes that Kisaragi's imitate elder's him copy the skills of others, and that he copied Thunderbolt from Inu, and that on top of having a low success rate, he can only use the skill once not knowing that imitate has evolved into copycat. To-Do then smiles and tells him that he is going to show the difference between their skills. Loki laughs, saying that he thinks that he can win. Kisaragi wants to keep the fact that his skill evolved a secret. Since imitate can only use a copied skill once, he decides to refrain from using Thunderbolt and Herculean Strength again. Kisaragi decides to sever his past ties then and there. To-Do warned him not to get cocky because he beat them by a fluke. Kisaragi refuted him by asking him if big talk is all he is good at, and that it is fine for him to run away if he is scared. To-Do, pissed, then told him that he will cut Kisaragi's tongue out of his mouth. After attacking Kisaragi with his sword, To-Do aimed to use a huge blast of flame in his face. In the audience, Rin was concerned for Kisaragi's safety, but Kisaragi easily managed to handle the fire and told him that he did this before and to learn a new trick. Confused, To-Do asked Kisaragi how he didn't get damaged, and Kisaragi told him that his skill didn't hit. To-Do told him to stop joking around, and that he hit him point blank, and how he avoided it. Kisaragi then told him that the explosion wasn't caused by his flames, but by his, and that Kisaragi copied To-Do's skill. To-Do, confused, realized that Kisaragi copied his skill from before, and that his skill hardly worked before today. Kisaragi then decided to bring this to an end. To-Do then launched multiple fireballs at Kisaragi, which Kisaragi slashed away, and when To-Do tried to hit Kisaragi, Kisaragi feinted behind him and hit him. This pissed To-Do off even more, and then Kisaragi used wordplay to stop him from moving, and Kisaragi used To-Do's flames again. To-Do then surrenders, but Kisaragi snaps his fingers, telling him that he will make sure that his flames don't kill him. After snapping his fingers, To-Do is engulfed in flames, and To-Do lost. Kisaragi used wordplay on him again to tell him keep his promise about letting Rin start her own guild. A few days after the duel, with help of Tadu's father, Rin was able to leave the Bloodshine Guild as planned. Then RN and Kisaragi started their own guild. After that was done, Rin asked him if he wanted to go to a dungeon. Kisaragi asks if the dungeon is another beginner dungeon. She tells him that they are going to try the intermediate rank dungeon, Abode of the Dead, and that it's the perfect start for their new journey. Recommended level for Abode of the Dead is 25 or above, and is the home to many undead-type monsters. If Kisaragi lets his guard down even for a second, he would die. Rin asked Kisaragi why he had a long face, and Kisaragi dismissed it by saying it was nothing, and thinking how he should be vigilant. Kisaragi then summoned Lufin, with Rin being mesmerized by Lufin's cuteness. Kisaragi, noticing Rin, asked her if she would want to hug Lufin. She excitedly hugs Lufin, not getting enough of that sensation. After calming down, Rin asked if Kisaragi can tell her more about Lufin. He told her that his name is Lufin, and a familiar he spawned by using a skill. Rin asked where Kisaragi copied the skill from. Loki remarks that she has sharp senses for a human, and noticed the change of his skill. Kisaragi then tried to think of something to throw her off his trail, but Rin told him not to force an answer since it's considered rude to pry into others' skills, and that she trusts Kisaragi and Lufin, and that they have her back. Kisaragi tells her to leave it to him. Multiple undead soldiers spawn, and Rin tells Kisaragi that she will break through their ranks, and for him to back her up. Kisaragi asks if it is better to play it safe for now. Rin tells him that her sword is specially made for those guys. She rushes in the swarm of undeads, and starts to slash them, killing them instantly. Loki tells Kisaragi that the sword Rin is holding is a holy sword, and can slice through undead like butter. More undead spawn, and Kisaragi tells Lufin to help Rin, and they start killing the undeads as well. Kisaragi tells Rin that she went too far ahead. Kisaragi notes that defeating them isn't enough, and started to attack them again, but they managed to regenerate themselves. Loki then asks Kisaragi what he's doing. Rin notices that Kisaragi is struggling, and decides to help him out since she can't have him exhausted already. Kisaragi asks if Rin will use a skill, but Rin tells him that she will be using her sword instead, and that she will show him a fraction of the sword's power. After using the holy sword, a light beams up to the sky, killing all the undeads at once. Rin tells Kisaragi that all she did was let out some of Holy Sword's radiance, which is like a wave of light, and to take out small fries like those, that much is plenty. She then requests Kisaragi to gather the magic stones for her, while she will stay and watch his back with Lufin. Kisaragi notices that Rin has won him over. Rin and Kisaragi then stands in front of the boss room. Loki tells him that she was going to die of boredom because they took so long to reach there. Rin notes that they got there with plenty of energy to spare, and that all that is left is to take down the boss. Kisaragi asks Rin about how they should fight the boss. Rin tells him to wait and see how she will take it down in one hit. After entering the boss room, it was filled with undead, and Kisaragi notes that this is what a boss room looks like in an intermediate rank dungeon. The boss is the Undead Lord, who is level 38, with a skill Undead Creator at level 3. Kisaragi then asks Rin about the strategy again. She tells him that she will wipe them out with her skill. Kisaragi asks her if she is joking, but she tells him that she is serious, and that it's a bad idea to have a prolonged fight. She tells him that Undead Creation is a more annoying skill than Summon Underling, and taking a long time to defeat them will put them in a bad spot. Undead Creator is a skill that allows the user to freely create undead, which is one of the strongest summon-type skills. Rin tells Kisaragi that a fully powered skill of her can kill all of the minions as well as the boss, but requires time to charge. Kisaragi and Lufin will buy her some time and tell her to not mess it up. Kisaragi and Lufin start to beat the undead, and Loki tells him that they were summoned by the boss skill and will disappear after taking a certain amount of damage. Kisaragi asks her if he needs TI the same as always, and Loki replies that simple is the best. After activating Thundering Blade, Kisaragi managed to kill a lot of the undead, and lunge towards the undead lord, which gets blocked by its guards. Lufan then attacks the guards, but does not do anything to them, and the undead lord spawns more of the guards. Loki tells him that it has opted for quality over quantity, and that its brain isn't half bad for a corpse. Kisaragi tells Loki that this isn't a light situation, and is a pretty bad situation. Loki tells him to remind himself who the true enemy is, and if it is the mere undead lord. Kisaragi, determined, tells Loki to watch him. Loki then tells Kisaragi to entertain her. Kisaragi then put a ball of fire in the tip of his 2 fingers and shoots the general. Kisaragi condensed the flames before releasing them, since it is a skill that manipulates fire after all. To his surprise, seeing the dead general, even the monsters started to shake in their boots, and that their fear will be the cause of their downfall. Rin then thanks Kisaragi, and that she is ready to go. She then uses her skill, Tir no Nog. It is said that a skill's power can be influenced by the user's mental image, which takes time and leaves their defenses wide open, but the difference in strength may be worth the risk. After using her skill, Rin annihilates the place. Kisaragi notes that this is the power of his generation's number 1 awakened. Rin tells him that it was a piece of cake thanks to the help of Kisaragi, but Kisaragi tells her that he didn't do anything and carries the magic stone since all he did was stall for time. Rin then tells him that it's time to leave, but Lufan notices something, and Loki tells Kisaragi to be careful, and that the fight isn't over yet. Behind them, an archdemon comes out of nowhere. Rin asks what an advanced rank boss is doing there. Rin then takes out a teleportation stone, telling Kisaragi to get to her, since a teleportation stone are items that can transport you to the dungeon gate in an emergency. As soon as she activated the teleportation, for some reason it failed. Some mysterious woman was watching this unfold and grinning. Kisaragi unsheathes his sword, saying that there is no other option but to fight.